Hi, welcome to Box on the Box Rock and Celluloid, or Bot Brack for short. Today I'm going to be looking at the albums of URIAH HEEP from 1970 to 1976, or what I'm calling the David Byron era. So URIAH HEEP, back when I first got into rock music, they're one of those bands that passed me by. We had Deep Purple, we had Sabbath at home, Scorpions, all those bands. The only URIAH HEEP album I ever remember seeing was going around to a friend of my brother's one night, and he had a copy of Conquest, which is actually one of probably the poorest album from 1980. So I think I heard Gypsy and July Morning on the Friday Rock Show. Probably kind of liked them, but just never checked them out. Fast forward a long time to very early noughties, around 2002. Just moved house, actually, moved flat. And I thought, I'm going to check out some stuff, start delving back into the past. I've been doing a bit of that, listening to the old bands because I didn't like the new stuff. So I was using Amazon at that time for the first time in my life. Looked up URIAH HEEP and tracked down a copy of the best URIAH HEEP Part 1 for like £3 or something, with some bonus tracks, and took it from there. Really liked what I heard, liked the sound of the band, liked their take on the use of the Hammond organ and David Byron's vocals. Started researching the band more. My local library had a copy of Travellers in Time, an anthology by them, so I rented that, copied that. And that had loads of great tracks on, which I'll come to later on other albums. And then I decided, well, I'll get a few of their classics. So I took it from there, and they've become a band I really enjoy listening to. And I've seen them live, and they're really good. And also, unusual thing, the first guitar magazine I ever bought had Mick Box on the front cover, my namesake. So let's get cracking. They formed 69, they're called Spice, and 1970 they released their first album under the name URIAH HEEP. Very heavy, very humble. This has David Byron covered in cobwebs on the front. So where does this fit in the context of heavy music? Up until this point, if you want to check out heavy music, you'll have the first two Cream albums. You'll have the Hendrix Experience albums, the two Jeff Beck albums with Rod Stewart. If you're kind of getting into American stuff, maybe you've got In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida Bar and Butterfly. You might have some Vanilla Fudge, heavy Hammond keyboards, heavy drums, but not heavy guitar. Maybe you'll have Blue Cheer. Whether that got released over here, I don't know. But there's not a lot of heavy music around. February 1970, Black Sabbath drop Black Sabbath's debut album, Black Sabbath. Deep Purple doing Rock, I think that's maybe April. And then URIAH HEEP, this comes out, it's June 1970 in the UK and August 1970 in the US. So it comes out a little later. And when it comes out, it gets a really bad review. It could be by Lester Bangs in Rolling Stone. Quote, "If this band makes it, I will commit suicide." Well, they did kind of make it. I think they sold 30 to 40 million albums worldwide. Not as big as Sabbath or Purple, who have sales close to 100 million. But anyway, the HEEP got there. So what this album's like, it opens with Gypsy and gives you to give you a gauge of the heaviness. I would say it's heavier than Purple, but not as heavy as Sabbath. It's got a unison riff, dan, 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 dan out, and it really drives along. And David Byron does some awesome screaming in it. So Byron, what's his vocal style like? He's got a purer tone than Gillan or Plant. He's not as bluesy, and his scream is not as guttural as Gillan's. And this is where he's very influential on heavy metal singing. Because he influences two guys. One of them's called Robert Halford, and the other one's called Frederick Bulsara, or more commonly known as Freddie Mercury. So, that's how important this guy is, and he's kind of been forgotten about a bit. So this is why I'm doing this in a way. Lots of tracks like Gypsy, great. Walk in Your Shadow opens really strong. Then they do a beautiful arrangement of sort of folk, it must have been an old folk tune, Come Away Melinda. So like Sabbath, they're happy to kind of get the acoustic guitars out and do some mellow stuff, which I don't think Purple like to do. So that's where Purple kind of differ. Obviously Zeppelin always got out the acoustics. Just quickly, Jimmy Page, goes, "Oh, we're not heavy metal." No, they're not, but they're a massive influence on heavy metal. And Dazed and Confused is as heavy as Sabbath, early Sabbath really, and as heavy as HEEP and Purple. So, these four bands make it up. Lucy Blues, not as into that. Dream Mare's okay, Real Turned On. Finishes really strong with I'll Keep On Trying and Wake Up, Set Your Sights. So there's three core members on this. There's Mick Box on guitar. Incidentally, the first guitar magazine I ever bought had Mick Box on the front cover, my namesake. David Byron on vocals, and Ken Hensley, who's come over from Tofat, I think, and he's brought the drummer over, or is the bass player? Sorry, just quickly going to check this. Yeah, it's Paul Newton. So Paul Newton's on bass, and he will take part on the first 3 albums. The drums are done by various different people on different tracks on this. This version has a US album version of Bird of Prey, which is a great track, but that will appear on the next album, Sailsbury. So, yeah, it's a little harder for Heep, I think, because they come just a few months later after the first 2 Zeppelin albums and Sabbath and Purple. And of course, Sabbath were Paranoid literally a couple of months after this. But, you know, they will get over and start making an impact. This makes 22 on the German charts, Billboard 186, get their chart in Australia, Finland. These are all territories where they will become popular. So album number 2 comes out in 71, and it's recorded late 1970, comes out March 71, and it's Sailsbury. There's the cool cover. Now, sorry, turn it up the right way, got a tank on the front. So this is a very experimental album. It's not as straight ahead as the other one. Starts off with Bird of Prey, which is a cool rocker with ridiculous screams by Byron on. Then it's got the track The Park, which has got jazzy kind of keyboard bits in it, beautiful vocal harmonies. Not rock metal at all really, but I really like it. Then it's got Time to Live, which is a kind of a more rockier track. Then Lady in Black, which was a big hit for them in some territories, kind of for folky acoustic number, which is really good. High Priestess, which has got some great sort of high harmonies. And then the title track's about 18 minutes long, I think, maybe 17. Let's just have a look at that. Sailsbury, yeah, 16 minutes and 20 seconds long. It's a weird track. It's got a big like orchestral arrangement. It's got a big brass section. I really like it, but it's nothing like what they would do later on. You know, it's quite a mishmash, this album, but I do like it. Again, one of the bonus tracks is Simon the Bullet Freak, which went onto the US album version, and this is a really great track. You know, it's a shame it's not on the original release, but that's like a really good rocker. Yeah, I probably prefer this album maybe to Very Heavy, Very Humble. It's a little shorter, so it's easy to get grips with, but if you made that your first URIAH HEEP album, you'd be like, what the hell is this? So quite a lot of progressive influence on it. On this album, Keith Baker, who's played some drums on Very Heavy, Very Humble, he does the drums. Paul Newton's still on bass. So the next album they do is Look at Yourself. This is 1971. It comes out November 1971, and this is their first bona fide classic. This is one of the first great URIAH HEEP albums. 1971's Year of Master Reality. Great. A year for heavy albums. The original album vinyl of this had a reflective mirror on the front, so you could look at yourself. So this has 7 tracks on it. I think this is the first URIAH HEEP album I bought properly and checked out of the compilations. Opens with Look at Yourself, title track, classic. Then a really good catchy rocker called I Wanna Be Free. Really good track. Then track number 3 is July Morning, probably URIAH HEEP's all-time, or one of their all-time classic tracks. Deep Purple have Child in Time as their epic. Sabbath, what's Sabbath's epic? I suppose you might say it's Megalomania off Sabotage, perhaps. And URIAH HEEP have July Morning. This is 10 minutes long. I think I'm just checking the length. July Morning, 10 minutes and 32 seconds. Brilliant track, brilliantly written. I think probably Ken Hensley writes it. Actually, it's Ken Hensley and David Byron. Yeah, it's epic. It's superb. So something interesting about this track at the end, it has lots of crazy sort of keyboard sounds, and I think that's something with URIAH HEEP. I think one of the reasons they're popular in Germany is kind of they probably appeal to people who like krautrock quite a bit. So like krautrock often has heavy synthesized passages. Ken Hensley's not like John Lord. He's not a shreddy. You know, he can do like jazzy fills and things like that, but he's not got that classical element that John Lord has. He just kind of heavy riffs and swirling swirling keyboard parts, and that's what makes them sets them apart from their rivals. Also, Mick Box does kind of wah-wah guitar solos. In all fairness, Mick Box, if he's being honest, he fits great in URIAH HEEP. He's not the calibre of player that Tony Iommi or Richie Blackmore or Jimmy Page are, but he's got his quirks, and he kind of sits in with the HEEP sound. Next, you've got a rocker with great slide guitar by Ken Hensley. So when they did slide guitar passages, Ken Hensley would switch to guitar, Tears in My Eyes. Then one of the all-time classic deep cuts, I think this is the greatest deep cut by URIAH HEEP, or one of them, Shadows of Grief. Amazing multi-track harmonies on this. So that's the other thing with this album. This is where like the multi-track harmonies, which they kind of invent really to a certain extent for rock bands. The Sweet and Queen will copy this, but they'll have more smoother processed sound. But URIAH HEEP will have several people singing, and Byron will do the high parts. Then What Should Be Done, which is a really cool sort of Fender Rhodes piano type of keyboard sound, I think. It's weird, it kind of reminds me of a song you might have on the Get Carter soundtrack, if you know that, by Roy Budd. I really like it. Then finishes off with Love Machine, which is a really good rocker. A bonus track on this album is What's Within My Heart. There's an outtake of Why, which is another really cool track. Yes, it's a great 9 out of 10. It's a classic heavy rock album of its era. It's well worth checking out. So the next album, something really important happens. Paul Newton and Keith Baker leave, and they get Gary Fane, New Zealander Gary Fane, in on bass, and drummer Lee Kerslake. And this will form the classic lineup of URIAH HEEP, and a lineup for me that goes alongside other great lineups of bands. You've got the classic Led Zeppelin lineup, the classic Sabbath lineup, Deep Purple's Mark II and III, and you've got URIAH HEEP. I'm guessing this would be their Mark III lineup. I should just say that on the previous album, Ken Hensley starts to really come to the fore as the writer, because it had a hit with Lady in Black, which I think's his song. Jerry Bron pushed for him to write more, and this would cause ruptions in the band. But Hensley is a great tunesmith, and he will come to the fore more. I think actually I've just made a little mistake. I think Mark Clark plays Ian Clark's on drums. Sorry, look at yourself. I've got muddled up there. Not Keith Baker. Apologies. So yeah, waffling. 1972, Demons and Wizards. Such an important album. And that album cover, it's by Roger Dean. It's using the fantasy metal imagery that will become so beloved of bands, Rainbow Rising. Album covers like Borrowed Time by Diamond Head, Iron Maiden. It all starts here, with this album cover. Demons and Wizards as well. The fantasy lyrics, the power metal lyrics that we know and love, will be adopted by guys like Ronnie James Dio, and history will be written that way. So what's this album like? Well, basically having Kerslake and Fane in creates a great rhythm section. Kerslake's not as bombastic as Bill Ward or John Bonham, but he's got a great feel. Of course, later on he would play on the first two Ozzy Osbourne albums as well. He's really good. Gary Fane's one of the great underrated bass players. He's just got beautiful melodic lines. He kind of sits back, not too intrusive, and just plays the right notes. He's really up there with the great rock bass players for me. By this point, Hensley, Byron and Box are firing on all six. Album opens with one of their first hits in America, The Wizard. Superb track, you'll probably hear it on Planet Rock. Then a great album track, I think this is principally co-written by Mick Box, and it's Travel in Time, really good. Then another all-time classic by Easy Living. This is their anthem, I think. This is their Smoke on the Water. It's their Whole Lot of Love. It's their Paranoid. It's a track that gets, put out on classic rock radio. It's written by Ken Hensley, and you can see where the problems will arise there. A song like this will be generating a lot of publishing income, of which the other band members will not be privy to because they're not the writers. Track 4 is great, deep cut Poet's Justice. Love that, love the little harmonies on that. That's something they'll do in songs later on. They'll just put oohs and ahs like that. Sorry about that, which are really good. Then brilliant deep cut Circle of Hands. Again, what I was talking before, kind of, it's got the crazy keyboard sounds at the end, the kind of krautrock Van der Graaf generator, stuff like that. Love Circle of Hands, and then one of their classic album tracks, Rainbow Demon. Again, power metal type of lyric, Rainbow Demon, fantasy lyric, brilliant keyboard line by Ken Hensley, great Hammond riff, dun, 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 dun. Really good. Then another good rocker, All My Life, and then it finishes with Paradise and the Spell, which are 2 tracks which run together, which are really cool. It's a great record, definitely a 9 out of 10. I would say it just edges out Look at Yourself, because it's got more tracks, there's a little more depth to it, it's got the great album cover, and having the Curse Like and Fame rhythm section seals the deal. So the album does well, it goes gold in America, the first gold record. I think Look at Yourself was silver, and there's pressure on them to deliver, so they go in the studio and do The Magician's Birthday, recorded September, October 72, and comes out November 1972. So I think there's a good point at this point is most bands, of the big bands, did churn out 2 great albums in 1 year. So Sabbath and Paranoid. Other ones escape me, like Saxon did 2 great albums in 1 year, Judas Priest did. It's a bit unfair on URIAH HEEP. They churned out Sailsbury and Look at Yourself in 1 calendar year, of which Look at Yourself is a classic. They quickly did Demons and Wizards, a classic, and then they did The Magician's Birthday. Now, great album cover again. This forms a kind of, a partner with Demons and Wizards, sort of like Scream for Vengeance and Defence of the Faith form a partnership in a way with Judas Priest and Overkill and Bomber with Motorhead. It's that kind of thing. Similar album cover. Is this a classic? Some people say it is a classic. I don't think it is, but it is really good. Opens with Sunrise, which has got a great, just comes in keyboards and a big R. I actually ripped off that idea for one of my own songs. Spider Woman's not great. Blind Eye, really like that. And Echoes in the Dark, that's a great kind of spooky track with a lovely Hensley piano line. Then Rain, a lovely piano ballad. That's something the band did really well. Just looking at actually side 1 had 5 tracks on it and finished with Rain. And side 2 of them was Sweet Lorraine. Now this is another hit for them. Not massive on this track, but it was a hit for them in Australia and in the States. Again, this album went gold. Then Tales, one of my favourite tracks, a top acoustic track. And then The Magician's Birthday, which is 10 minutes long. It's got a kazoo solo in this. I'm not totally stuck on this track, but I do like it. It's got a bit where it actually sings Happy Birthday to the Magician. But again, it's carrying on the lyrical themes. These fantasy type of lyrics are something that will become beloved of bands throughout heavy metal. And it starts here. So this album, I'm kind of more a 7 out of 10, but they did produce two really cracking records in 1 calendar year. And the year before. So this album does really well from at this point. They're big in Japan, Australia, Germany, which will be a key territory, other parts of Europe. America, they're going out and playing big theatres, 10,000, 15,000. They're up there, they're getting limos, they're living the lifestyle. And that continues with this album, Sweet Freedom. Still the classic lineup, Curse Like Fane, Box, Byron and Hensley, Sweet Freedom. Abandoning the fantasy cover for this, they actually went out and recorded in France for tax reasons. I really like this record. Opens with Dreamer, which is okay. It's not the best track, but then it's got Stealing, which again was another hit for them. This gets played on classic rock radio. Big hit in Australia again. I think a hit in America. Then One Day, which I really like. Then the title track, Sweet Freedom. This finished side 1. This is a really good deep cut, and a favourite of Bernie Shaw's, I think. Then side 2's much stronger. I think side 2's absolutely corking on this. I love If I Had the Time. Got a great kind of keyboard sound and a beautiful chord progression by Ken Hensley. Then 7 Stars, which is an up-tempo rocker, which I love. And then one of my favourite tracks, Circus. This is like an acoustic track. Kind of lyrics are kind of looking at the rock and roll circus and people parading around, I guess. I really love it. It's actually written by Gary Fane, Mick Box and Lee Kerslake. I didn't realise that, and it's a really cool track. Generally, tracks are written by Hensley. And then Pilgrim, which is a kind of epic at the end with some crazy operatic singing, which I'm guessing is by David Byron, or maybe they got in someone. It's a really good record. I've given it an 8 out of 10, that album. So really strong run here. What happens here at this point is I feel that the band, they've been pushed very hard. David Byron's drink problem is starting to progress. Ken Hensley's got cocaine issues, and Gary Fane has heroin issues. They're out on the road a lot, stuff like that. I think Ken Hensley's starting to get jaded as a writer. This next album actually has not as much Hensley songs, there's more contributions from the other band members, and it's Wonderworld. Now, I've listened to this a few times online, and I got it recently. Don't like the album cover. When did this come out? Let me just check. Yeah, June 1974. So again, doing an album a year at this point. I don't like this album. Wonderworld's okay, the title track. Never liked Suicidal Man. The Shadow in the Wind, So Tired. The Easy Road's a good ballad. Something or Nothing. Yeah, not into that. I think it's got loads of la 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 multi-tracked harmonies at the end. So I noticed with this album, the pitching on the harmonies isn't as good. So normally they had really good pitching, but they're starting to go a bit sour on this. I Won't Mind, We Got We. I'm not fussed with these tracks. The last track, Dreams, is a good kind of gothic URIAH HEEP track. It's a kind of style of track they do well. But it's a kind of 4 out of 10 for me. This album goes gold, but problems start to arise in a rank. I think on this tour, David Byron gets pissed on stage. He gets hit with his own microphone. He steps on it, hits him, and the crowd laughs at him, but he tells them to fuck off. This was at the Philadelphia Spectrum, 15,000 seater. Next time they went back to Philadelphia, they played at 3,000. So there's problems with Byron. I think in the sleeve notes as well. Is this one recorded at Music Line? Just bear with me a sec. Doesn't say. Anyway, I know Byron's like drinking a lot. Yeah, it says this album goes silver in Britain, so they're starting to get more success in Britain at this time. And his next album actually makes number 7, Return to Fantasy. Again, I heard the title track before. When I listened to this album online, I wasn't as fussed about it. It's a better record than Wonderworld. The production's better. The production on Wonderworld is really not very good. Return to Fantasy is great. Shady Lady and Devil's Door. It opens with 3 cracking tracks. Beautiful Dreams, a good track again, doing that kind of gothic thing that they do. Then I'm less fussed with Prima Donna, Your Turn to Remember, but I do like Showdown. It's got some cool harmonies, fun track. And then Why Did You Have to Go on a Year and a Day? It's got 3 corkers and it's got some good 6 out of 10 tracks. I'll probably give this album a 6 out of 10. At this point, Gary Fane has been given his marching orders because of his problems, and he sadly later dies in 1975. John Wetton comes in on bass on this, and a valuable part of the chemistry is dissipated because of that. Having said that, John Wetton's a great bass player, and on the next album, High and Mighty, his bass is flinging on this, some great bass work, but it's a lot more intrusive than Gary Fane's playing style. Gary Fane does a lot of melodies, but he's kind of more space, where John Wetton's busy. Terrible album cover. This actually doesn't get released in the States. They fall out with Jerry Bron, they self-produce it. I actually think it's a good record. It's basically got One Way or Another, which John Wetton sings, which is a good track. Weep in Silence, Misty Eyes, they're great. Midnight's a really good track. And Can't Keep Up a Good Band Down. So off the bat, 5 really good tracks. Don't Like Women of the World, Footprints of the Snow is a really good track. Then the album tails off, but Make a Little Love and Confession are pretty good tracks on the end. I think it's a better album than people realise. The production's good, I like the sound of it. I'd probably give it a 7 out of 10, 6, 7 out of 10. But unlike Return to Fantasy, it's that mark because it's got tracks that are really good. It's more commercial, it's less progressive. It isn't really progressive at all, and it's kind of fitting in with that pattern by this time that bands that had kind of progressive elements to start to go away from them, because that's obviously punk's going to be coming in and things are getting more stripped down. So at this point, David Byron leaves. He's got a lot of drink problems. He doesn't get on with Ken Hensley, principally I think because Ken Hensley gets the share of the songwriting on this album. the previous album, Return to Fantasy, yeah, there's a lot more co-writes on that, but on High and Mighty, Ken Hensley writes every track apart from a couple with John Wetton. They kind of take over with the writing. So, you know, that doesn't fly with David Byron. He has a solo album, Take No Prisoners, and then he has the Byron Band. But his drinking gets so bad that in 1981 he has a gig at the Marquee and he falls off stage pretty much in the first few songs and he just disappears. And next thing you hear about him is his tragic death in 1985. I remember reading the obituary in Kerrang, it just said bye bye Byron, and they were just talking about what a magical voice he had, and one of his former managers or record company execs, I think she's called Maggie Frame, said that he came from an era where rock stars were indulging, they spent a lot of money on rock stars, and people typically got money and bought mansions. Obviously what happened to Byron, you know, he was living in a lap of luxury, but then he came out of Heep, he couldn't afford that lifestyle, he had to move to more humble abode. I think he actually died of some kind of seizure to do with his alcoholism, but I think his doctors had said he didn't have long. It's just really sad. He liked the hard stuff, but he's singing. He's a great singer. You know, he's up there with Gillan, Plant, you know, Ozzy, those early rock singers for me. After that, URIAH HEEP, after 76, they get John Lawton in, who's from Lucifer's Friend. He's a great singer. And they go in a more, you know, continue the more commercial direction of High and Mighty. They do Firefly, Fallen Angel, and, Innocent Victim, Fallen Angel. These are good records, they're all worth checking out. I think Firefly is probably the best, although I quite like the commercial sound of Fallen Angel. I think there's a problem back here with the kind of branding their album covers, you know. There's not a kind of focus, but they still do really well in Germany. Weirdly enough, the song Wise Man's a minor hit. They're on top of the pops with that. John Lawton, he's wearing the same outfit that Klaus Meine is wearing on the Taken by Force album cover. If someone can answer me why that is, how John Lawton ended up wearing the same outfit as Klaus Meine wore on the Taken by Force album cover, please enlighten me. But anyway, if you watch the footage, you'll see. Lawton leaves. Principally, I think his wife caused problems or something like that. Then they get John Sloman in, another really good singer for the Conquest album. The album's not very good, to AOR. And Sloman has a really good voice, but he hasn't got a lot of power live, and I think he's prone to sort of gremlins in his throat. They go on hiatus for a couple of years and come back with a Bombernog, completely new lineup, Peter Golby on vocals. And that actually reboots him. It has a bit of success in the UK on the back of New Wobbum, great album cover, more of an AOR sound, and I think it makes number 56 in the US charts, and they go back out to America, and Heep get reborn a bit. Next two albums don't do as well, with Peter Golby headfirst in Equator. Then they get Bernie Shaw in, have their success in Russia. They don't do an album till 89, Raising Silence. And that they have Phil Lanzon in on keyboards as well. And that core three members stay with the band from 87 till now. Lee Kerslake sadly has to leave the band due to health issues, and he passed away recently. And Trevor Bolder, had the great Trevor Bolder on bass, and he passed away from cancer. But at the moment they've got Russell Gilbrook on drums and Dave. Sorry, I've forgotten his name, but he's a great bass player, top bloke. And they've been making albums since then. The sort of pick from 95 is Sea of Light. That's the best album of the middle Bernie Shaw era. Then they do Sonic Origami, and there's a massive gap. And then they come back and they've hit a real sweet spot. So Wake the Sleeper, Into the Wild, Outrider, and what's it called? Sorry. I'm going through here and I'll find the title. But anyway, the album Wake the Sleeper's like really good. It's got an epic track on it, which I'm going to tell you the title track, which is really cool. What Kind of God, brilliant track. Into the Wild's really good. It's quite hard to pick between those two, but Living the Dream, So Living Dream, the latest album's had some of the best reviews of the career. I would kind of argue, there's an argument, if you love the David Byron, it's maybe their best album in 45 years, basically their best album since Sweet Freedom. Others would debate and say it's their best in Sea of Light. I don't know, but they've gone from strength to strength with Bernie Shaw. They've got a consistent lineup. He's a great singer, and like a lot of bands of their era, Blue Oyster Cult, Judas Priest, bands like that, they are releasing some of their best albums ever in this period. So amazing tale. So check out that other stuff. I'd probably be here all day if I went through every single URIAH HEEP album. This is up to 30 minutes, and that's just the David Byron era. But I hope you enjoyed that. I'm sure I've missed stuff out, but see you again soon. Thanks very much.